I kind of accidentally screwed it as I changed the content type. You missed a bit here, guys. I'll get this one. Yeah.
There's a real lack of holes in here. We need to create some more.
Turbo. Whoa.
I think your microphone. Hello, and hello. Welcome back to the Rag Company podcast. This is the main show. This is the real deal where we had ourselves a little interview. We had a great talk with Alan Medcraf. We'll get to that in a little bit, but first, I gotta warn you about something.
Oh.
This is it's going to sound a little intense, but during the episode when Levi and myself were talking with Alan, there was a lot of well, there's just no other way to say this. A lot of drilling and screwing going on in the background of the podcast. You may hear some like kind of high-pitched squeaking noises.
Yeah.
It's kind of awkward, just like vibrations. It really was a bit much, and I apologize to our listeners in advance who are unfortunately just going to have to listen to that if they want to hear what Alan has to say. And I will say you should listen to what Alan had to say.
Great interview.
Great talk.
Good guy.
Really, really good.
Bummed Anthony couldn't be in on it, but you know, at least you got to listen.
He's my favorite Scotsman.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a very short list of Scotsmen that I like, and he is probably at the top. So, I mean...
Sean Connery
Sean
here.
Connery,
And then,
Ewan McGregor.
yeah.
and Alan.
And Alan. Like, that's your Scotsman.
He'd probably be excited to hear he's on that list.
Yeah.
I think he would be very happy to hear about that.
So for those who are listening and or watching and they realize they haven't heard your voice in a while,
I know.
you want to give us a little update? Like, what was going on? Why
dude?
haven't
How
you been
been?
on the show?
Well, so I haven't been on the show because obviously I have this back issue, right? So it's a disc issue I have in my back that is compressing my sciatic nerve, right? So I have what, people call sciatica, right?
Right.
Now, me being 34 years old, I thought sciatica affected like 70-year-old people.
Correct.
Right? Like, oh, my sciatica, I can't, whatever.
Sciatica's acting up. I gotta go.
Yeah, I gotta go. I can't, I gotta get out of here, right? I didn't know at 34 years old that's not something you could experience, but absolutely 100%. So basically, I got a L5-S1 nerve compression from a disc protrusion or herniation, whatever you want to call it.
Bulge disc.
And it is pressing on that nerve. And the problem is that once it starts pressing on the nerve, it gets inflamed, and then it just sticks around, and then it just kind of gets worse and worse and worse. So long story short, I can't really stand, can't really walk, can't really sit for very long. So like right now, I'm probably, I got another minute or two before I got to...
You've been sitting for like 3 minutes and you're already in pain.
Yeah, it happens pretty quick. So I have to lay on my back to get like full relief. So that's kind of how things have been. I've been working from home and from here at TRC.
Yeah.
I get to work in one way, shape, or form, whether it's my wife driving or if I can deal with the pain to get to work.
To drive.
And then I get here, and then I've taken over the TRC couch. So I lay there pretty much all day long.
I love when you announce something like you're doing, and you're like, wow, did you guys know? And some people forget that you're here.
And it freaks them out. They're just like, where'd the voice come from?
they walk in the door and they don't realize that I'm just laying there. I've had people actually walk in, not look at me, and come to sit down on the couch and sit on me.
They sit on like a knee and go, whoa.
And I'm like, hey, I'm laying here, right? So long story short, most people can recover from this usually on their own, right? Some people it takes months, it could take weeks, whatever it is. I'm going on like 3 months now of this, and realistically, how much longer I can do, I have no idea.
Yeah, but it's been pretty heavy for the last month.
Oh, it's been horrible. So I didn't think... You
kind of had the pain, you didn't know what it was, then you got into some, actually like looking into it, got the MRI, got all that stuff, but it's really been a heavy month of pain.
It's horrible. My sympathy goes out to literally everybody that's dealt with a back problem or like this type of nerve compression issue, because it's a big deal. But long story short, in one way, shape, or form, whether surgery is a thing or a miracle or time or whatever it is, here in the next several weeks, there will be a resolution to this, and I'll be able to get back to my normal sitting, standing, walking, driving, running, bending, twisting. Eventually, it's just not anytime soon. So, anyways, take care of your back, people. I don't know what I did to do this, so I can't say like, hey, don't do this, but maybe don't lift anything up that you don't have to lift up, right?
Yeah.
Try to get somebody else to do it for you, right?
Smart.
Yeah,
Outsource.
I mean, get a neighbor, get somebody you don't care about, and have them do. I'm just kidding. That's horrible.
But they can't know.
They can't know. Why do you want me to pick this up? No reason.
No
Just
particular
do
reason.
it.
Just tired from picking up other stuff, a lot of heavy things.
Horrible.
But you can tell people like that you have had 2 injections.
Yeah. I've
So
had
you have been working towards a treatment plan.
constantly. Yeah. My life has been around doing this inversion table injections, trying to heating pads, ice, heat, therapy rubs, like literally outside of like going down to New Orleans and having a voodoo witch doctor, do something to me. I've pretty much tried everything, and I'll continue to do things, right? Until I have to go to the last resort, which is surgery, right? And so basically I'm checking all my boxes. So at the end of the day, when all this does get resolved, I'll know that I did everything I could, and it is what it is. But I do miss being here on the main show, miss doing everything, and again, I miss being here where I couldn't sit next to Alan, right, and listen to that beautiful Scottish accent for an hour.
Well, here's what's going to happen. You can.
I can.
We're going to listen to the episode, so you'll be able to listen to that beautiful Scottish accent. Hopefully, lull you to sleep as you lie down on the floor and just enjoy the podcast and this episode with Alan Medcraf. All right. Well, hopefully you guys are ready for this, but basically, we've got a friend that came all the way, not only across the pond, but then a transcontinental travel.
He's a globetrotter, man.
To come to Boise, Idaho. All the way from Scotland. Ladies and gentlemen, Alan Medcraf. And Alan, thank you for joining us, brother.
Guys, this is a pleasure. I'm buzzing to be here. How many times have we tried to do this?
Pretty much our whole friendship.
Smile on my
Pretty
face,
much our whole
ear to
friendship.
ear. Like, even when we met outside, I was kind of like, love you, this is cool. Now I'm sat here, look at us, giggling like Cheshire Cats. We've done it. We're in the room.
Yeah.
But we have, seriously. I think when you and I first met at Waxstock.
No way.
And remember, you were filming, and I got in one of your videos.
You slipped
in the back.
That's right. And I was just like,
you're like,
fan moment. I went, Levi just jumped in my video.
Yeah,
it was one
I
of
jumped
those.
in on that, and I was like, I jumped in Alan's video.
Yeah.
And then that January
then I came out.
2018, then you came out for Mobile Tech, and we kept trying to make, like the whole time we kept going like, we need to sit down and do a podcast.
Something needs to.
And we just couldn't make it work. And so here it is, 7 years later.
All it took was 7 years.
We got you here, but
Like
we
a
had
fine
to,
one.
yeah, you got to Boise. That's all that matters.
But way back when, like you could tell, you're like, this Alan guy, he's interesting. He has something to say. He's usually like a pretty chipper guy. He's upbeat, like his attitude, and I don't know. You just kind of bring people together.
Fluffing my ego here.
Yeah, yeah.
What are you going to hit me with next? Let's puff him up.
So this is actually an intervention.
But seriously, so for those folks that don't know who you are, tell us basically your backstory, where you're from, where you based your business, how you got started in detailing, and we'll just run it from there.
Mosey on from there.
Yeah, so just start us off.
I am originating from the UK. So born in Germany, actually.
Oh.
My father was a military, army dad, and we were born out in Munster. Come back to the UK, and I'm from an area in Scotland called Fife, born and raised. And then I joined the military. Off I go. So young with lots of money and spare time, as you do being an engineer, bought my first car, and geez, did we hit that with everything. Autoglim SRP was a product I had a red Renault Clio 1.4 Sport, and it was every weekend white like the snow, because we would just buff it on. It would form a thick crust before you buffed it.
Yeah.
And we thought we were, better than sliced bread. Let's make cars shiny. Fast forward to then through the career, doing cars, having a passion for it. I have Crohn's disease, so it's an inflammatory whole immune system disease, to be fair. And at that point, I passed ways with the military. So what do I do next? Do I take my engineering and go offshore? or do I have a go because I live in the Highlands of Scotland and try and do this whole thing where no one's doing this?
Yeah.
And I seen it as an opportunity where I can do this, but we're going to have to educate. So that's where learning to stand in front of people, learning to have that kind of conversation with your customer came about. And that's where the kind of core skills came from that we chose the detailing. Sarah and I had a 5-year plan and we crushed it in 2.
Nice.
Wow.
And that was the start. So it was a straight away into a unit-based business when we started professionally. But before then it was...
For those that are wondering, unit-based means shop.
Sorry. Yeah. So we were a shop-based for you universals, international people. So yeah, shop-based. I was, when we went full-time. So before that, I was working out the back of a Ford Fiesta. Mm-hmm. So a mini hatchback, working out the back. And then I rented a shed space, and it is a shed, at the bottom of an old airfield where the flooring was like chunks of tarmac mixed with mud because it stored horses carts, and I would detail cars in there. So I wouldn't do the interior. Once you've done it and you come in and come out once, it was a mess. But yeah. That's where we started.
What year would that have been, give or take?
You're asking
where things started to get serious. You went from just kind of hobby stuff to...
Well, let's say...
I know military.
I know when I sold the company, it'd been 12 years. So we roll back 12 years from now. That's now going to be
2012.
Okay.
No.
Or 12.
Yeah, 12.
Right. Sorry.
So 2012. And then I lived up in Lossiemouth for maybe 3-4 years before then. So yeah, we're talking probably 2009, 2010.
Okay.
I'm working out of a shed at the bottom of an airfield. Okay. And then working for the military through the week. Some random person would message me. Well, back then it would have been through like a Detailing World online forum. There was no Facebook, Instagram, things like that. And they would be like, hey, I've got XYZ car in the north. And I'd be like, I'll do that for £200, $240.
Yeah.
Everything included. I included my overnight B&B. You were making no money. Yeah. But it was just experience.
That's crazy. Yeah. So then when did you open AMDetails, the actual company?
Yeah. So then we have the whole thing where I medical out the Air Force. Very lucky. I got a little bit of a paycheck. Yeah. Plus, I'd been doing all my side hustling. So it was all project money, basically. We saved up, moved into the shop, and then started doing the detail business. So it was, you could probably fit 3 cars in, but I'm on my own. Yeah. So we're hustling. And then accidentally, really, I noticed the gap where people were saying, hey, what do I do next? Yeah. And I live in a remote. Would you class Boise as remote? Like, is it difficult?
It technically used to be.
2010, 2011.
2010, 2011.
Would you have to pay a premium for shipping?
Boise. No, we didn't have to pay a premium, but we were a very...
we're 5 hours from the nearest large metropolitan area.
Right. Yeah.
That's the closest one.
Yeah, and Salt Lake. But for me, detailing at that time, that was just the growth. There was only a few shops, really good shops that had been around for years. But even then, their skill level wasn't to the where it is now. It's almost like the dark ages, because we didn't have a lot of social media. We had it, but we didn't know how to utilize it.
There was less pressure to change back then. That was a big part of it because of the whole lack of like really constantly visible social media. Less people were feeling that constant need to, I got to keep pushing. I got to keep getting
Your customers were just looking to get their car cleaned.
So even for us, like, people couldn't bridge that demographic. Mm-hmm. I was really lucky that even when I had the shop, I don't know for whatever reason, but I'd still hustle on the driveway with my own stuff. And where we lived, we had a golf course across from the house. And back then, even golf wasn't as easy accessible to, the middle area of income. So it was quite wealthy people. So they were seeing me wash my car going, this kid's doing something legit. So I'd have Jaguars pull up, Range Rovers pull up, like, how much to do that for fun? The comedy, you're doing mine next. Yeah. And next thing is, actually, I have a shop in town, pop in and come and see me on Monday. And I generated a lot of leads that way originally.
That's good. Yeah. That's neat.
In fact, if you imagine, so I got the shop, I would love to go to AutoGeek and ask, can you find my original order? Porter cable was the first dual action I ever had, and I had to import it in from AutoGeek and then buy 110 inverter and an extension. And I ran that thing for 3-4 years before moving over to a Rupes polisher. Nice. So I run all that on 8mm and then Festool rotary with... Sorry, all the brands I work for now for offending you.
It's history.
Right? It's history. It was 3M pads and Manzerna polish. That's how I started out. So the old Hex Logic pads, the old waffle weave.
Yeah.
That's me back in the day. That's how we did it.
That's rad.
That's cool.
So business was rolling, shop's going. What most people don't know is you still technically do have a very successful YouTube channel
Yeah.
where you were teaching people, showing techniques, showing tips and tricks, showing just an average day in the shop. And then your product line. You created a product line.
We did. So
Talk about the growth and how you built that. What was the reason
honestly,
for
the reason was what I was getting to earlier, asking about the shipping. The area I live in, Scotland, to ship things up there, it was an extra premium. So where people were getting £6-7 for shipping, we were in the 20s.
that? Yeah.
So customers would have work done and they're going, what can I use to maintain this? And I'm importing poor boys into the country because I'm still very Americanized at this point. You are the source of information at this point. The UK had a fantastic, I look back and I apologize. We had fantastic players in the game back there, but social media didn't allow us to get access to these people. And I'm in a remote part of Scotland where I'm not going to be in and around London where I can see Kelly Harris, or in and around areas where I can learn from, even central Glasgow, fantastic rotary technicians back then. So I couldn't get educated locally. So I found my sources online. So to bridge that gap, I imported all these chemicals and realized I'm making no money at this. And a complete accident, I bumped into one gentleman at a conference and he was like, I think I can help you here. I can get product to you. And I was like, oh, great. So I took a little bit of his stuff and I was like, this is fantastic, but I wish I could do this with it. And I don't know why I was being fussy. I just was. Maybe the old, military engineer or something. I'm just like, but I like being involved. So I was like, I wish this would do a little bit more of this so that it does this. And he was like, oh, I can do that for you. And I was like, oh, so you are a chemist. And from there he went, you want to just slap your own kind of label on it? I was like, whoa, let's do this.
Yeah.
Wait, you can do that?
Officially, I was probably one of the very few first white labels in the UK, I would think, that then applied himself to putting that on social media. And it was nothing. It was, a wheel cleaner, soap, foam, and a wax.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about the things people use most at the time,
That's
right?
all it was for.
It's not worth it to go
chemicals
too niche too fast.
was never meant to be what it became.
Yeah.
Never. It was meant to be, I'm going to make money just hustling, machining cars all day. And then the next question
Sell it to
was,
the customer.
what do I need? So I'll give him that. And then fast forward to you're doing road shows and trying to sell your wares, kind of come away from the detailing a little bit. A friend of mine come up to me and he was like, oh, my boss is coming in with this Mustang. It's been all over Europe. Can you clean it? It's doing a photo shoot. And I was like, yeah, sure, cool. So this gentleman comes up to me, a little bit rough around the edges with a hoodie up, just like, yeah, I've got this Mustang. So I go and say, right, this is a matte car. I could potentially damage this. You're talking in the fear of early, 2000 teens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matte wraps and matte paints were terrifying for a detailer.
It was still pretty new territory.
So I went in it with our
all
old,
was rattle can paint, basically.
I went on it with our all-purpose cleaner and a rag, basically, trying to do an O&R type wash. And he was delighted. We got this done and off it went. Turns out that gentleman, I love him to pieces, James, is the four-wheel motorsport manager for Monster Energy. So he was then just like, send me a bill, I'll pay for this. And I was like, no way, I've had a great time. Because he looked after my team. He was just like, oh, here's Monster Energy. Here's have some fun at the drift. Do you want to go on track? Do you want demos? So just for helping this one guy, my team's getting drift seats that I guess you'd have to pay for. It was just a really nice relationship. And being in and around that community of people, they're all about content and being edgy. And I'm not edgy enough. Right. Unfortunately, I'm not tattooed. I'm not edgy. And detailing is not cool.
Yeah.
Detailing is not cool.
Yeah.
2012, 2014. So I was never going to be able to do anything official, but I was in that community. And from that, I learned from the Monster Media team and stuff. And that's where it was like, you have something, you need to be on camera. Go and film what you do. So a good friend of mine, Dan Fegent, said, take your phone, film 3-4 clips a day. Because this is Facebook's live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I knew it was free marketing. And so I would have an alarm set on my phone, first thing in the morning, middle of the day, end of night. And we were doing express detailing, as you would call it. Car comes in, bish, bash, bosh, out. So it'd be like, look, we're going to work on today, lunchtime. It's in and we're going to do this. Here's a 50-50 evening. It's finished every day.
Yeah.
And he said, instead of putting that on social media, film it. I'll piece it together. YouTube.com/AMDetails. First video, go and have some fun. laugh. And I think my third video was me trying to set up a point of sale display. It takes me half an hour. And I didn't speed it up. The whole video is me going, what the, how do we put this on here? Get the wood on the meat, then going, ta-da, like a horrible DIY video.
That's awesome.
People love that stuff, man. They
They
really
did.
do.
It was crazy.
To see someone else go through the struggle, I think there's something there's a certain subset of people who really appreciate, like, oh, it's not just me having a hard time. I got to watch someone else do it. But you know what? They figured it out at the end. Gives me a little bit of hope. I can do it too.
And that's what I guess kind of put that. So you imagine the YouTube channel at the time wasn't when people are consuming lots of YouTube content. So our early days audience, I mean, by then you guys are probably a big deal, but our early days audience, there wasn't as many people trying to demand that type of content.
Right.
I still think we did really well back then. So it was mostly small but really engaging audience because it was me detailing. It was like, I don't know how I'm going to fix this. Let's have a go. And I just set the camera up and have a go. And some of them became a 1-hour episode of me just messing on with a car for a day.
Well, and not to totally derail, but I was curious because you said the guy had a Mustang. Not exactly a common car over in Europe.
If you want to do a little more on that, let's jump in. So that was Von Gittin Jr.'s RTR Mustang.
No wonder. Okay, so it's Von Gittin.
Legit.
Okay.
So it's Von's so this is the cool thing. Sorry, I try not to name drop. Love you, Von. So it's Von Gittin Jr.'s RTR Mustang. They had just finished doing Gumball 3000 and Gapville tour in Europe. So you imagine he's flown this car in. It's gone. It's done all the drifting,
sick,
all the partying,
all the driving,
partying. Right? It's had how many drivers in it? Probably how many women in it? You know what I'm saying?
It's living a life.
It's a have a fun car.
Yeah.
How do you get it back to the UK where it was going to reside at Monster HQ and either go home or do another tour around Europe? It had to get driven. Yeah. And poor Jimmy was the guy. You think the level he's at Monster, he's like, I'm the one responsible to drive this back. So he had to drive it the whole way back.
Oh, boy.
And then it ended up at Driftland in the north of Scotland, so in Fife in Scotland. And there's me on, some cobblestones with a little tent, like, come buy my wares. Like, what's the chances I'm there?
Yeah, right.
What's the chances they're there? And that relationship happened. And I thank them. Beautiful. I thank them to this day. Everyone in the Monster Media team and everything else, they couldn't have been more supportive. It's like when you're here.
Yeah.
The opportunity that your platform gives people when they sit in this seat is crazy. And that's how I felt back in 2012, 2014 with those guys.
Nice.
No, that's awesome. That's why I wanted to ask, because I'm like, well, you said it very casually, so I'm sitting there thinking there can't be more than like maybe a few dozen, a few hundred in the country.
It's like it's left-hand drive, and you imagine all the politics around branding. So it's left-hand drive, and at the time in the UK we have a guy, Steve Baggioni. Sorry if I killed it, dude. And he's an epic UK drifter, probably considered like a legend in the sport now. One of the early grassroots drifters up to the level he's at now. He's got Skyline R35s. He's got a converted Nissan Navara running an R35 engine, fully spec'd for drift, but it tows the car.
That's awesome.
It's on YouTube. Go and check out their YouTube channel. Watch that build, and you watch their fabricators try and build the struts to take out. Seriously, if you're into build channels, follow awesome. Steve Baggsy's channel. It's legit. Wow. So he was coming out to drift the car. But you can imagine with fitment issues with Europe and US and the tires, at that time they had to be really naughty, and they had to put Steve's actual tires from a car they found somewhere on the back. So it's like, we can't have any static pictures of this car because it's high, big stake money sponsorship deal.
Yeah.
It's meant to run on, these are not the things, but it's meant to run on OZ alloys, and you've gone and stuck a set of Chinese knockoffs with a set of so it was every picture or video from that event, it had to be in motion. So you couldn't work out, it wasn't the sponsorship. All those little things you don't think about.
Yeah. Wow.
That was a fun trip.
Yeah. I think all the times we walk by a gallery or something, and like, you can take pictures of anything except that one. And of course, I'm always the guy who's like, that's the one I was going to take a picture of. Yeah. But yeah, no, totally.
Personal use only.
Yeah. Personal use only.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we covered that time frame a little bit, but that's an awesome little side story for sure. Yeah. But any other things around that time that were just kind of like,
the product line
kind of exploded. So people are watching it, and you're sat there one day, you wake up. So another reason I did the YouTube, and I look back at it now and I'm humble about it, but back then I was young and naive. I used to really get upset about the people who'd be like, oh, you just wash a clean car, you don't put effort in. That detailing industry is so easy. Look at you printing your money, and you're just like, I have money. Every bit of money is in this, and I'm busting it from 5 a.m. to whatever. Oh, by the way, I have a wife at home that I don't see. I'm not advocating for that lifestyle at all, but just that's what we did back then.
Yeah.
So I wanted the YouTube channel to show. So if you watch it, and I actually ended up getting a watch sponsorship.
I remember that. Yeah.
The early days, I would go, the time is 5:30 in the morning, people, I'm in. And that's the reason I did the time is. And then it just accidentally became a good segue for what's happened between that cut and this? What have we missed? So that's how some days you would get a time is now only twice, and I'd skip 6 hours, and I'd be like, so sorry, time is now 8 o'clock, here's the car. Time is now the end of the day. What a chaos one, let me update you what happened.
Yeah.
Some of the road trips I'd go on, like if I was vlogging that style now, I'd have been like, the time is now, we've just gone and got, we've just been to Mocha Moose and had the Sydney, like the things that people could relate to. And then I'd be like, time is now 1 o'clock. I'm going to try and go and do a podcast with the guys. I might bring that back. We'll see if the current climate allows me to do my own media again. But yeah, so back then that was interesting time. So I did that, and people would then email me going, hey, can I get your product in France?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, sure. You want to give me money? Let's go. And then I'd be like, so off to the post office. They were like, no, that can't go in a box and just go to France. Like, what? So
you find a way to say yes.
I had to find out. So it was going and working. Like, what's really lucky with Scotland and whiskey and exporting produce is they have a lot of, not charities, but, a lot of free resources, government funded to help you with this. So Scottish Development International helped me create MSDS sheets and do all this. But you imagine there's companies now I'm still working with legit teams that can't do this. And I'm just super lucky that in my young business days, we were already exporting to America and stuff. So even like Brexit, sorry to say that word on the podcast, but it didn't really affect me much because I was already exporting to China, already exporting to America. In small volumes, I'm not any of the big brands, but because I was doing it, I had the systems in place. So
yeah, you were good to go.
we did really well out of that time.
You didn't have to worry.
But the brand grew from comments in YouTube. How about you make one of these? Why have you done that? And I do videos on, this is why we did it. Oh, let's have a go. Yeah.
Nice. Well, and then we met mostly once I came in, we got to start traveling, and we'd all been learning and watching YouTube videos for detailers because that's what I was doing in my shop. And so when I think I started watching some of your stuff 2015, 2016, and I started here in 2017, and we started just doing stuff. And it was the first years, Dane and I just go through and watch people and then go, and Anthony, and go, yeah, let's, I like what they're doing. I like what they're doing. And we kind of built us around some of those folks, and you were one of them.
Yeah, you want to familiarize yourself with the players of the industry and who the most visible people are and what kind of like crowd they attract. Like that was a big part of it too, is kind of getting a sense of like, oh, okay, this person is kind of targeting this kind of viewer. They leave these kinds of comments, and you can definitely see like just having a slightly different personality type can attract a very different audience.
Yeah.
And did you find like who were your most influential YouTubers, do you think, from that time? Let's give some people a high five.
Well, for us, it was you, it was Jim White,
Larry, obviously,
Larry Casella, and then we had some smaller guys that we kind of knew as well. That they've kind of either stopped or backed away from it, but they were all the main ones are the guys that we still are in contact. Matt Mormon, when he was, I mean, there were the first few episodes.
You look what OG's
uncut.
Done. From a channel to what it is now.
Yeah.
Well, and OG
10,000 subscribers and uncut videos that Matt would just set it to auto and push record and run it the whole time.
Before
the whole wheel cleaning.
2 hours later, you're like, Matt, how much more can we talk about wheel cleaning? I can't talk about wheel cleaning.
Walking up to shut it off. Like we were there for all of that.
His website would always show up in the Google Analytics, and I'm like, what is Obsessed Garage? So one day I just followed it. This is before he had any, he had no intention at the time, at least visibly, of selling anything. Like he was just a guy who was trying to organize his life, and he created a website that just kind of like collected the things he liked into a visible format that other people could replicate. But he was not selling you anything. He was linking to our website because he liked our waffle weave towels and like other stuff. It was 1000% or organic the way it was set up. We didn't ask him to do that.
Yeah.
He just did it. So I was curious looking at the Google Analytics, where's this coming from? And that obviously turned into something very different. But I was always curious, watching where people would pop in from. And certainly we had people come in from the UK.
Yeah.
Obviously, thank you. I saw people who
take a
watched
check
your
later.
videos, watched ours too. So there's a little symbiosis there. But yeah, it's always interesting.
Yeah, John of
to
Forensic was the other
see where
one.
people are coming from. Yeah, John of Forensic
And
was a big one.
Pan,
time.
when Pan was little.
Yeah.
Pan had 10,000 subscribers when he reached out to us.
I have a crazy one with that. So if you imagine, for me, so Jason at Chicago Auto Pros, Car Supplies Warehouse, he helped boost my channel up.
Jason was another one.
Yeah, Jason, right? So he did one of those fun videos where I think, and that's what, he was really innovative when you think about it. Especially for a guy when to doing YouTube, he was like, Jim, I don't want to be in front of people. I don't want, so the camera gives me a way of doing this where I'm in my own space. But then he said, can you guess who these 5 YouTube channels I watch are? And he mocked us all in a funny way. So he did my Good Morning or my Hello Social Media, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but I know he did you guys and he did Matt. And Matt, he might have been slightly offensive in how he did it. He might have done, but you know what I mean? Like you could definitely work out who they were. But it was this is how clever he was. It was to get comment engagement on his videos.
Yep. Yeah.
And then people went back.
Yeah, they all write, oh, this guy.
So I was loving to that one. So fast forward, I know we're skipping around here, to when we all went and did Car Supplies Warehouse Media.
Yes.
And so I have been speaking in the back end to Pan the organizer many a time. And then lucky he comes into France quite a lot and we just happened to cross over at shows. I'm sat down with him for only 5-10 minutes and he was just like, I'm not going to try and do a Canadian accent. But he basically turned around and says, you know what I used to do before? Because he shoots these videos late at night.
Yep.
So he's feeling it. It's the end of the day. He says, I have to watch an Alan Medcraf video. You hype me up before I do. And I was like, no way. I'm his Rocky Balboa music.
Yeah.
This is legit.
You're the eye of the tiger.
So he's like, I'd watch it and it would just make me get my hype on, and then he'd go and shoot his videos and go, Pan, from me getting hyped up.
That's awesome.
That's gotta feel good.
It did. It was like, I was at that event, Cheshire Cat, the whole time. I was like, hey, Pan. He's like, yeah, what's up?
That's great.
He could have been lying, but it made me feel good.
You know what? Just choose to believe it at that point. Just choose to believe.
Well, and then you sort of transitioned because of how well known you became within the industry, with AMDetails. You started just becoming basically the master of ceremonies at Waxstock every year.
Yeah.
And Dom and PJ and John would put you up and go, all right, Alan, here's the microphone. You spend the whole day with a microphone in your hand.
Yeah.
We can trust him.
Yeah, I'm not
do
going to
a good
lie.
job.
You guys, I've always wanted to be what this is. It would have been phenomenal for me if I had enough manpower and a kick-ass team to still have done chemicals, done detail, and done travel and training, which we'll still talk about, and then do this. I love talking.
Yeah.
But I love listening more. I love asking a question that just lets someone smile or laugh or pull out a subject. So I really wanted to do this. So thank you, Waxstock. Every year they always give me the platform of, there's the microphone guy, go crazy. And it's really unique, and I enjoy doing it, as in you put 4 different personalities on stage.
Yeah.
Many of them don't want to be there. Most chemists don't want to be on stage. We don't have as many Daves in the world that are happy to talk about their product. There are people that like to do chemistry. So we have these people on stage, and I got to ask them a question knowing they're going to find it easy to answer, and the audience is going to engage with it.
Yeah.
So we would ask someone about, oh, what's cool about your ceramic coat? And the chemist's like, I can answer that. This is what's unique about it. So then Levi's there like, what are you going to ask? And I was like, what type of towel would I use for that ceramic coat? And Levi?
Yeah.
Right. And then you do that. And then another chemist up there who I know is maybe making someone's like, so once I've used that towel, could I clean it with your chemist? So I love doing that. And then the 4 people on stage, like, you made that so easy for
Yeah, it
us.
worked.
Thank you.
Collaborative.
And it's just that connection between the audience and I love that. I could do that all day.
No, that is awesome. So I would say, in regards to that, was that something that they approached you or you approached them?
Maybe it just happened. I think originally, to be honest, it was probably, so they use Bert Ewell, pro detailer, who also do the Pro magazine. Fingers crossed something happens there, because I love that. I love that content. And I think he was doing it, and it just, it was a lot going on.
Yeah.
I was just like, you want me to help out for a minute? He was like, oh, There's
Yeah,
the
it's lots
microphone.
of talk all day, but people don't realize what it is.
It's intense.
you're
Like
on.
as much as I love doing this, they think talking's easy. But
Yeah.
even
It's
the
a
three of us
different
talking right now, we're still trying to think about what we might want to ask. And it can be intense. And the poor guys there trying on interviews all day. And I was just like, hey, do you need a break? Want to go and get some food? And I think it was thrown in my hand 1 minute, and then the audience were like, huh, who's this guy?
Mm-hmm.
I think it actually started, and I will give them a high five. So G-Technic, one of the first Waxstocks that they had a stand with BMW Mini, and they didn't have Adam, who's their trainer guy in the UK at this point, like their face of their demo guy. So Rob was just like, hey, you fancy doing some demos? And he's like, I'll slip you a bit of money. I'm like, oh my gosh. A brand's going to pay me money to do what I like to do. This is legit. So I was there with the Britney Spears headset on. They taped off a whole roped area. It's like 3 people deep. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm showing like old school C1. Like I don't even think CSL and CSU were out there. Old school awesome. C1 spray EXO at Waxstock doing the whole, QVC style. Okay, everybody, let's
next. Here we go.
Here we go. So I think it started there, and I think PJ had seen that, and he was kind of like, oh, I think actually PJ had asked me to turn the volume down because I accidentally was a bit more louder than Mike Phillips on stage at the time. Sorry, Mike. Love you. Yeah.
Nice. So then, so the business is booming. The product line is growing. Website or the YouTube channel is big. You're doing more speaking appearances. You get into training more, and you become a dedicated trainer for a couple different companies.
Yeah. So that was, I think the G-Technic thing helped me realize that I enjoyed training, or at least demonstrating product.
Right.
And then G-Technic are just trying to grow in the UK, so I ended up being the trainer for most of the people in Scotland to save them going south. So Callum, who I work with at the moment, certified him in CSU. But the big thing for me was I want to be a trainer now. I've got my product line. I'm doing my detailing. At this point, I have a team, a great little team managing it. So the company is detailing as a product made by detailers. What we all want. And the training and speaking side was coming. I was like, I like this traveling bit. Mm-hmm. This is fun. Mm-hmm. So I then decided, how can I train? Because at this side I got, what do you call it when you think you're not good enough? Imposter syndrome.
Imposter, yeah.
And I'm like, no one's going to let me train them and say, Alan Medcraf certified me in wheel cleaning. Right? So I was like, how can I get this up? So Googling away, and I found the IDA. And I was just like, I wonder if I can do something with this. So I think at this point, I may be reaching out to you.
You and I have already becoming more friends.
friends.
We're getting closer. Yeah.
I'm asking the question. He's like, I know who you are, but no one else really does unless they watch YouTube. So there was a lot of, I think I was the first or close to the first public RIT.
We worked really hard.
And it took about 2 years.
To be the first RIT available in Europe. And we had Patrick who had put in but didn't get his response back, or his letter in and second letter in time. You had put in all your stuff. I was working with both of you. And we had one other guy that got his in, but he was like a different it wasn't kind of
not
mainland.
No one really knew who he was, because it's not an easy thing back then. You've got a group of people who've built something they're proud in, and they want people to teach it, but you need to certify that this guy.
You also needed someone to stand up for you. Yeah. You had letters of recommendation. You had letters from training, from students that had taken trainings, and you were able to get. You had not only myself but Jason Rose.
You because I met him at Waxstock.
Yeah,
this is before,
and I think
I'm an SV. Yeah. He SV'd me in a parking lot at Waxstock.
Yeah.
Legit.
Sounds worse than it is.
We're at Waxstock and I'm a CD and we're chatting, and I think I'm trying to. It's Jason Rose.
Yeah, the great Jason.
So I was like, oh my gosh, do you want something to drink? And he's, what did he say? Basically, what we would say for a hot chocolate, but it's Jason Rose. So he wanted a hot chocolate, but with loads of sugar in it because it's Jason Rose and stuff. So I went and got this. When I come back, so I'm thinking, right, I've got him this chocolate. I've got 10 minutes of his time. Here we go. And Jason Rose is an absolute gentleman. He will speak to anyone. I'm not, but I built this up in my head that.
Yeah, well, I was the same way.
It was my problem.
Yeah.
It's not Jason. Jason's a legend. He'll speak to anyone. But I built in my head, I need to speak to Jason.
Yeah.
So I got this hot chocolate for him, and I'm sat there, and he's like, what's going on? I was like, I would just love to do this and do that. And I'm talking about being a trainer, being all this. And he's like, the idea helped you with that. I was like, well, I joined Levi, help me. And I've done my online CD, and I'm doing this all this stuff. And one day I'd love to be a trainer, and I'd love to be this. And he was like, oh, I can help you with that. I maybe got an hour. How good are you? I was just like speaking.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm okay. And he goes, look, we're really meant to be intense on doing the demo, doing whatever. But he's like, if you can talk me through it with confidence, and then, we do a little bit after, I'll sort the paperwork out.
Yeah.
And so we ran off to Waxstock car park where they're doing all the pre-washing. So there's buckets, there's everything. And he SV'd me pretty much, I think, sorry to say, off the top of his head. And then he got the exam later that day, and we're going through it, and he's asking me the questions legit, and I answered them all.
Yeah.
If anybody's,
I got SV'd at Waxstock car.
Yeah. No, and that's
If anyone's going to sign off,
that was a big thing. And then when you submitted your RIT, I remember literally, like, because I was head of CertCom. I was second in CertCom. Kyle Clark was sitting outside, was the head of CertCom, and we had our certification committee meeting with all the different certification committees. And that was back when we would bring in the RIT and go, all right, here's what we do. And if you knew that person, it was up to you to speak on their behalf and go, this is who they are. This is why I think they should be our RIT, blah, 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 blah. And then they do an interview. Now we have a full RIT review board.
Oh, now it's
where there's,
I'm so proud.
Where
That's
there's
crazy.
About 6 people that you meet with, and they do all of that. And then that board certifies you for good and bad. But
100%.
It's one of those, but I remember literally pulling into the Jacksons down the street, Dane, to get my soda as fast as I could, because I had to give my my 2 cents.
And then I think they had to be, and then they came back with, oh, we love it. He's got these guys backing him up. We still don't know who he is. So at that time, I'm not on the certification committee.
Yeah.
So that time, out of nowhere, I have this guy called Tom Palancia phone me up. Right? And I'm just like, oh, here we go. And to this day, one of the best mentors and friends I've ever had.
Yeah.
But he was just talking, asking me legit normal questions.
Yeah, and I think it was because it was just Jason and I. So then Tom was the board liaison.
And I maybe spent 2-3 months just back and forth chats, doing whatever, because he's a busy guy. He's an international. I was a busy guy. So it took more time, and then it went back to certification. And then I think, high five to the idea and you guys, you took a punt. Really? Yeah. This is what we're really meant to do. We want to be international. Let's do this. Let's take a punt on this guy. So,
yeah. And then 2 years later, you're president of the IDA. Pretty much. 3.
Far away. 3, because we had the dreaded C, delayed that a little bit.
Whoops.
Yeah. But 3 years later, you became president.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 100%. This is what happened. So I became RIT. I spent a good time traveling Europe.
Yeah.
It was one of those scenarios where, so you don't get paid to be an RIT.
No, you don't.
You don't. So Sarah and I looked at it as, this is a massive exposure campaign for me.
Yeah.
I get to help people out, which is so fulfilling. I get to do a little bit of my own training to make a little bit of cash. But it was always we got to raise this profile so much for the next step. So Sarah this time is on my phone as emails are coming in. And there was a last minute email, generic IDA email comes through for, apply for IDA board today. And Sarah's like, you should totally do that. And I was like, what? She goes, the closing date's today. And I was like, well, I've missed it. She goes, not on our time zone, you've not. I was like, oh. So the whole 8-hour drive down, we're sat going, Alan is so miserable. We wrote this application form and got it in the day before. And then a couple of months later, I had a phone call from board. It was been Jason Rose and Nick, because they were at the board at that time, and Tom was on the board, and he was just like, I think you're going to get it. I think you're going to be the first international board member ever for the IDA. And then I became a board member.
Booyah.
Yep. Then vice president.
Then delayed vice presidency due to and then the president, and then past president after.
Yeah, crazy,
bad run.
Absolutely wild to get that far.
Honestly,
but then while your presidency, we did Auto Mechanica together. You and I did, and that was
the year of me being president.
That was the year of you being president. That was the first time I remember myself and Lars and Clint pushing really hard. That was one of our goals, was to try and get, because of coming out of COVID, trying to get more art, because it was really just you and a couple people. And we were trying to figure out, how do we get people into countries?
Yeah.
How do we get RITs into countries so we can certify and skills validate detailers? And it took us all through COVID and into that first year after COVID to get a virtual trade or virtual SVs.
Oh, when we were doing by video through COVID.
We were doing them by video, and it was really hard.
In the best way, chaos. Like the logistics behind it, the logistics.
It's unavoidable.
It's a poor word I use there, chaos, but it incredible what we made.
Yeah, but we were able to get that done, which allowed us to certify a few guys in certain countries, Germany being the biggest, that was able to help spurn this growth. which made the German chapter over that year be able to build itself up. And then you and I go to Germany, and so did Dane.
Yeah.
And we go over for Automechanica, and holy crap.
Wow.
That was all hands on deck, doing you and me being the RITs there.
We crushed it. I'm not
and
gonna lie.
I think we only had like two other RITs
Yeah.
helping. But how many
So we had
people?
Josh was over as
Josh
an
was an
SV, been
SV.
able to assist us.
Yeah, we had a couple. Lars was an SV.
And we just certified, oh my goodness, I feel terrible with names. We just certified the Sonax trainer.
Yeah, Christian.
For Christian, we just certified Christian in RIT.
Yeah.
So we booked only like 7 SVs in a side classroom. And we thought that was going to be it. And the rest of it was just,
this would be great.
Let's see what happens. And then every day, all kind of people just came up like, can you certify me now? And these guys are laughing at me as I'm running towards like the cafe tables, and people are like, oh, and then I'm running all the way up to the conference printer, which is 4 buildings away.
Yeah.
Paying
Getting more.
$1 a sheet because it's conference prices.
Yeah.
Printing all these
Prepared for
exams.
how big that place is.
Well, and just the number of people that we ended up certifying, and it was almost 20 people
It's crazy.
at the end of those 5 days, which was unheard of for a trade show, because we don't even get those numbers at Mobile Tech half the time.
Biomechanica. Wow.
Like the fact that we were able to do that in that trip was huge.
Yeah.
And one thing that we loved was Lars was like, I want Alan to come with us so we can do all this stuff, because Lars was working in the chapter for Germany and had helped found that chapter.
He was just the
and doing stuff.
linchpin of that whole thing, right?
But it grew that chapter to where it is. It almost rivals the UK chapter in terms of size. And one thing that came out of that was the fact that we all got to hang out for the first time in all these years, but we got to spend 5 days together every morning,
It was solid.
every day, every night together. And one thing that came about of that was Jeff here at the Rag Company, and everybody was like, we like Alan.
Yeah,
Alan
this guy.
feels like us.
Yeah.
Like, this is good. And Dane and I had already
He's a good
known, and
fit.
we were like,
Yeah, we've done
guys,
this.
this is how it goes. And after that, Jeff calls up Bob and goes, I got a harebrained idea, but I think we should, if we pull resources, maybe we can hire Alan.
Yeah.
And we talked to our guys in Europe and our guys in UK, and we all tried to work it out, but there were some laws, some logistics that we couldn't
Things
make
happen.
work. But that was the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then that idea is now a reality.
It's pretty crazy.
But through P&S, because of that talk with Bob, it planted that seed where Bob was like,
It did.
oh. And then Mobile Tech, you started spending time with
So
the
I have
P&S
to say
team.
this, I have to give huge caveat to the position I'm in now. Not only, yes, I'm here because you guys are ego blasting me and saying I'm a nice guy, right? But every time I flew over and I was like, I'm going to fly over to whoever, Bob was like, don't you dare put yourself in that hotel. You're in with the P&S house.
Yeah.
So it was always in the P&S Airbnb. And you think of the people that are in that building.
Yeah.
Like you say, like you wake up in the morning, you're sat having breakfast with Bob Phillips, Rennie Doyle, Dave Phillips, Sydney, every morning. These guys are in that, Kyle, and you're having conversations that are just normal conversations about family, or they're legit things that are going off in the industry conversations. So we did that for 3-4 years. They've put me up for a very long time. And then we found Automechanica, and you just have this harebrained idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it comes to the back and forth, and here we are today.
And now,
Do we explain what it is today?
go
Can we
ahed.
do that?
Yeah,
we doing it?
It already
Now's the
got
time.
released.
All right,
And
here
when
we
this-
go.
When this
It's
video
out there.
releases,
It's
it'll
official.
already be known.
Yeah.
So,
Well, before I launch I'll say what happened between. So
Yeah.
before Automechanica, I have Crohn's disease.
yep.
So during the dreaded C, we had a fantastic time. E-commerce,
Yeah.
crazy.
Really.
Came with its own
Yeah.
problems, but phenomenal. The detailing shop being shut for the whole 2 years. Scotland was really strict on it. So we come out of that. Somehow I survived, and I think the come down of the adrenaline had caused me a flare up. So I ended up doing the best part about 4 months in hospital.
Yeah, that was a long time. I remember calling you a lot.
Dude, I was. It was close. We wrote some letters. I was like, we would just got to tick off some boxes in case I don't come out of here. It was an emotional roller coaster for sure.
Yeah.
And my wife, she's a saint, absolute saint. I never got to see the kids or my wife the whole time because you're in the dreaded C.
Yeah.
But eventually, so the ins and outs of it is I'd grown a large abscess and they had to do emergency surgery to remove it. But of course, surgery on your bowel comes with complications. So yada, 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 fast forward. I come out and I'm maybe at a low point mentally. And I was just like, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah.
I really don't. I had to let staff members go that I love today, or family members, but due to that, you had to let it happen. I come back to a company I've not run or touched for 4 months, and they've done a great job, but it's like, pooh-wee, that all the other stuff that I do hasn't been done. So it was, what do I do in life? And my account was like, you might want to try to sell this. I don't think you're healthy enough. So fast forward, I'm very lucky that I managed to sell the assets of the chemical company. And then I phone up Callum at Spotless Detailing to say, your products are going to come from somewhere else. He was someone we supply, and he's like, ooh, you in the selling mood? And I was like, someone's done well through COVID. What's up? And we'd always talked previously, Callum and I, about doing stuff, but we had young children, so we never done it. Where we live, we corner Scotland quite well, and then there's Aberdeen, a big source of, wealth, income type of car that's there, and we thought we'd love to do something there, but we never could. So he was like, I'd like to buy your detailing business if I get to have you. So he did that. He bought the business. I did 6 months full-time. We now do part-time business development. So fast forward to me being now an auto mechanica.
Yeah.
And Jeff comes over and what was his words? It's the end of auto mechanica. We're all tired. We're all done. Jeff comes over and I'm just thinking it's going to be, oh, hey, what's up, Jeff? And he's like, penny for your thoughts? And I'm just, oh, here we go. What's going on here?
You know you're about to get in.
Here we go. Let's go and have a sit down. And it was I'd really like to try and make this happen. How can we make this happen? And as you say, no one's fault. I love everyone in every part of TRC, everyone at P&S, just the logistics, life, world. How do you make it happen?
Yeah.
So many moving. We couldn't. And fast forward to...
But that seed was still there.
The seed's
it never
there.
went away.
The seed is there. So Bob and that have been with me all the time. You guys have been with me. It was a synergy that somehow would have worked.
Yeah.
And eventually we did make it happen when ATG, Appearance Technology Group, purchased P&S.
Yeah.
So when that happens, you now have a beautiful group of brands all working together under one umbrella, and you can make this work. So Bob was like, we can now get Alan on board. And so it was pitched to Nathan, and Nathan was like, yeah, I'm all up for a chat. Let's see. Fast forward to Mobile Tech January.
Yep.
I get 20 minutes with Nathan and Kyle and speaking to the guys. And then I send one little LinkedIn message afterwards to Nathan, just like, hey, Nathan, just reaching out. This is my contact details. Because it wasn't a I'm looking for a job conversation then. It was just a, hey, what's up, Nathan? What's going on? And he was like, let's talk. And a couple of talks from there and here. And I am here now as your International Business Development Manager for ATG Group, which means I'm representing all the companies that fall under the ATG umbrella.
Yeah.
So not just
Portfolio of all brands, which is, I'm not going to lie, it's a bit daunting initially because, wow.
Yeah.
There's some incredible brands underneath that portfolio and what they do already. So that's the reason I'm here. That tour that I've been doing was to visit 3D's facility, visit P&S's facility, because as much as I love the brand and use it, done it. It's still, you can't compete with being with Dave in his facility as he's mixing stuff up.
Yeah.
once you see it.
Yesterday, I was just using the stuff going, Dave, I do this in the UK for this reason like this. He's like, we don't do that in California. So maybe we could do this. And we're already looking at products and lines. I'm really looking forward to it. And it means
I think it'll be fun.
I get to do a lot more with you guys because of the relationship that you have that's fantastic with the brands underneath the ATG group. So what an opportunity. I'm super pumped. And I still get to do my development with Callum. So I now get to manage a business developer detail and manage a business developer product line. Geez, the two things I enjoy doing myself, but someone else is doing it. And I have a team of incredible people behind me. So if I have an idea or a concept or something, I'm not saying that's what I'm going to do and fob it off to the team. But what I mean is, if I have a marketing idea, I'd have to sit and make it myself on Canva or sit and do whatever. Now there's specialists that do this day in, day out that can help me out with that. So I'm super excited for what we can do. And so it's Europe and the rest of the world. So
and that's what's super cool is, that original first sit down was with Clean and Shiny, with Optimum Car Care, Rag Company, and P&S, which those two other brands handle P&S and Rag Company for UK and Europe.
100%.
Which now includes that. So the four of us, you get to still work with all of us.
I get to work with
and
all the people.
Auto Mechanica just means, hey, Alan gets to be there again, just like he was 2 years ago. Yeah. So we can all still be in the booth because we're splitting a booth in Auto Mechanica.
That's going to be so fun.
Which is going to be a blast. And
I'm really looking forward for
that. I am too. And that's what's one of the funnest things I think that most people don't realize is, I think the people that we've met, and especially for those of us that have been in this as long as we have, to where you get to see where it started, where you're at now, and what you get to do within this industry, and where this industry allows you to go based on realistically how much you want to put into it. You know, you can stay in your shop and you can just work and you can just do your thing and you can make a good living at it. You can have great customers and you can be locally well known. And you can leave it at that.
You're content. You're hanging out.
Or if you want to go worldwide and have people know who you are,
it's not the goal.
It's not the goal, but I'm saying
Clearly,
didn't try to become the face of detailing.
right, but it's doable because you and I have been able to achieve that.
Yeah.
Where 10 years ago, I would have never.
No.
I was well known in my city here, Boise, Idaho. Welcome. And I was happy. I was happy, you know, and I didn't have to do all this stuff, but I saw an opportunity to just grow myself and help grow a company. And that's the reason I took the job at the rag company.
Fun challenge.
Was to just go, the future was open for us. I mean, I remember thinking back to Dane trying to figure out how to run the point of sale system the first day I met him after I'm buying $250 worth of towels to try that his dad keeps just bringing in and handing me.
Yeah.
Take these. And the two guys that were with me in the store that day was Justin over here at the store and Matt Ward from Diamond Pro Tech.
Yeah.
Those are they're my two guys. And now they're still close because I keep, wanted to make sure my boys were okay. But it's wild to think back to that first day.
Sure.
And go, holy cow. And the only connection me and him had was that he went to high school with my little brother.
Yeah. So funny how that worked.
But here we are now.
Yeah.
And then same with you and me. Like I saw you. I'm like, oh crap, there's Alan. And I was hoping because I was literally the week before leaving for Waxstock, that first time with just me and Jeff going to Waxstock.
Yeah.
I was watching and trying to catch up on the previous Waxstocks that you were doing. That you had done, so I knew what to expect.
See what was coming from Waxstock.
So I knew what it was, and then saw your updates, and I was like, "Oh, good, Alan will be there." And then I just happened to walk by and saw you doing.
It was in the background.
Yeah, I'm gonna
find that video. He just hopped in like, "What's up?" And I think he gave me a little grab, and I was like, "What? That's Lee." He put me right off my stride. I was trying to be professional,
but it was. I was just as starstruck and just as excited to go. So cool. Holy cow! I get to be. This is awesome. Yeah. So I'm just happy to finally get you in the studio, be able to actually have you explain yourself. Tell your story. Let everybody know who you are, because every time we've had you on our lives, every time we've had you on Q&A,
you'd have to be on the screen. We wouldn't have you.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to do this.
We would, but people go crazy. They love seeing Alan.
Oh, thank you.
You've been one of our guests that everybody. It's crazy the viewership. People love seeing you. And
nobody gets mad at this guy.
No, and that's what I'm so
excited.
excited.
He doesn't attract that kind of negative attention.
My wife hates it. She calls me nice guy Al. She's like, you just won't find the nasty in anyone. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm just nice guy Al. I want to make sure everyone's doing something for a positive reason, and I guess that's infectious.
But it doesn't come off as disingenuous, because that's one of those things. The danger of like, oh, somebody who's always positive, it's a shtick. But with you, it does. It feels authentic. It feels genuine, and that's just how you operate. It's not something you just flick a switch on and suddenly you're doing it for the camera, and then when the camera goes away, you're suddenly this super negative person. That doesn't happen. And
I know it's not easy to do, but that's where, remove all the brands, remove everything. I encourage people to go to Waxstocks or go to car meets or do whatever, because they're like, I don't need to go to that and willy wave with other detailers and all that sort of stuff. It's like, that's not what it's about. It's about going and going, no way. What's up?
You could do that.
How do you do this over there? And what's it like? I'm still, that time I just had a P&S and 3D speaking to the chemists, doing whatever. They were like, what do you want to speak to me for? Not many of the sales guys want to have this in-depth a conversation.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I'm not a sales guy.
That works when I'm using it. Or I did this. I don't know if I'm doing it right. And they're like, I'm going to work that back. Okay, let's have I just love that part. And I know it's tough to go speaking to people, but I tell this to everyone. If you're going to a car show or you're going to a conference, every other person just feels like you. I'm going and I want to speak to people, but well, everyone's going with the thing of speaking to people, so just do it. They're not all going. I just want to go in and get a deal and get out. No. So if you go up to someone and go, hey, can I have a minute? Or hey, I watch this. They generally want to talk to you because that's the reason they are there.
Yeah.
Or if it's a brand, they're getting paid to be there. So if they're doing their job right, they will fake it and they will speak to you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, and when it comes down to it, different people have different motivations. But if you were to kind of distill down your experience that you've had up to this point, from where you started to where you are now, what do you think the driving force behind it all was? Not to put a big, heavy
Wow,
subject
Dane.
on it.
Did you see what he did there?
Yeah.
You did. It's the
Do you
last
see what I'm
question.
doing? I'm
I've been letting Levi do most of the
I'm
talking here,
delaying.
and I'm very conscientious not to, butt in too much because I want to hear what you have to say. But
The
that was something
driver,
that was in the back of my mind the whole time here. I want to hear it from you.
the driver. So I guess if you sit and go, there's all those different things in life where it's like, what's your driver? What's your reason? What's all that sort of stuff? Of course, family, love, all that jazz. But I think in this industry, I personally got driven by the frustration, I guess, like I did the YouTube videos of people thinking, oh, it's easy, you just wash clean cars. Of the still to this day, people might be working on it. I'm sorry. Our industry gets looked over. If you want to be a nail technician, you want to be a hairdresser, you can go to college and learn that. And I'm not taking away from those industries. I mean it from a point that they're using quite harsh chemicals, and that's why they get to go to college and learn and do.
They have to be licensed,
right to
too.
be licensed. Our industry, that still isn't a thing. Have you seen the chemicals we're using all day?
It's worse than what.
Have you seen the conditions we're in?
Yep.
Yeah.
Some of us are outside in blistering heat. So it's been a hidden thing of mine that I think this industry is beautiful. There's guys today still having a fantastic life with a bucket and sponge. We did it. Who'd have thought a bucket and sponge guys working the bottom of runways and scabby sheds would be on a platform with the viewership internationally that it has in a fantastic booth. Well done, guys.
Oh, sorry about the noise. We got some sheetrock and put up on the side.
We've tried to ignore it up to this point, but
I don't think it's picked up as going to be. But yeah, my reason, I don't know. I just love it. The traveling aspect. The one thing I love about our industry, and this comes from the staff members at currently SD, is the instant gratitude. Instant.
Yeah.
You take a car and spend an hour on it. Wow, I did that. Whereas if you're in a production plant or you're just a part of, you never see the end result. You never see.
Yeah.
So I just feel like you've done a good day's work every day, even when it was a bad day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Instant gratitude, the kind of hustle, it's straight in your hand. But the more I do it, the more I start to like the business side, and I start to like this. And
Yeah. And what I like it too is the best thing for me with that instant gratification is if I'm not feeling up to it, if I'm not feeling in the mood for it, or maybe I've had a crappy day, or I'm not, I'm just, maybe I'm a little bit down. All I got to do is go wash a car.
right.
And it's something that I can control. I can feel good about it. My body, for the most part, allows me to still do this.
Gets a little bit of a workout.
Gets a bit of a workout, but that instant gratification at the end and go,
Right.
it's nice and clean. It's done.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you come home and the house, you might be able to get that by cleaning your house. And if you can, cool. But sometimes that's a lot. And if you're like us, we can get a car washed in under 20 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, hour max. But the point is, it's something that, to me, it's a quick meditative reset.
Right.
No matter how bad the day went or what's going on with the family, maybe the kids are sick and you're just at your wit's end, you put them to bed. I got some daylight left. I'm just going to go wash the car.
Yeah.
You can just reset and go, all right, I'm ready for tomorrow.
So I don't know if it answered your question, Dane. They can tell us in the comments
I was
if it
going to
did.
say,
But,
yeah.
but
I
it's
feel like you did.
it's one of those. Yeah, it's one of those where as much as I did it spitefully to kind of be like, oh, I do put the graft in, and I do, and I don't want it to be. It's always about the hustle.
Sure.
But I think if you're always open and willing and positive, Mr. Nice Guy Al, there is so much more to this industry that it can give you.
Well, and that was something I really appreciated about your approach to this kind of thing, as you kind of alluded to and walked around the subject a few times. You don't have like a zero-sum mentality about this stuff. You don't look at it as because somebody else got something nice, I am therefore being punished by the gods somehow or something. It's not a they get one, so I get a negative one kind of thing. It's we can build together. Right. It's a collaborative thing once again. So I just always appreciated that quality you have.
I always look at everything with a positive intent, sidetrack. But what I mean by that, especially guys that are generating content, like we're putting ourselves out, privileged, out in the wilderness to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Like people could slide into the comments of this podcast and go crazy.
Oh, they do.
Right?
They always do.
And I know we have fun with it, and we do whatever, but really I'm always like, there could be some positive intent with here. Like you do a video and a lesson, someone's like, why didn't you do that? And you might really take it aggressive, and I'm being positive about it. You don't know what that person was doing when they were watching your video. They could have been right in the moment where you get kind of stuck. I'm watching a Levi video. I might be in the moment thinking I'm with Levi.
Yeah.
So naturally, I'm like, hey, Levi, why'd you do that? So they're just going to type that.
Yeah.
But we see it as, oh, they're being negative.
accusatory,
Or I wouldn't
yeah.
have done it like that. You know what I mean? But they're not going to spend the time and the effort to write out this massive thing to do.
Right.
So I always look at it as positive intent. So just go back when I'm answering those comments, for example, I'd go back like, hey, thanks so much for your question. What's going on? I did it for this reason. Most people then come back, oh, that's amazing. And when I adopted that mindset from a sales point of view, that's when I sold lots of AMDetails.
Yeah.
Because I'm a, Scottish guy producing terrible videos with a funny accent that does silly stuff on YouTube in a shed in Scotland. It was not your polished broadcasting entertainment. But all the comments that would come in as hate, I would try and sit and reply positive to each one. They'd be like, oh, send me a link to the stuff.
And that was something I was curious about because, I mean, obviously, Levi comes at this from the detailing angle. I'm always curious about the inside baseball of running a YouTube channel,
Right.
the social media aspect, those things. What were some, smaller lessons you picked up along the way with your YouTube channel?
Yeah, with
what stuff,
YouTube.
clicked? And as far as commenters go, I'm sure you noticed certain behavior patterns that would happen based on the kind of content you were putting out.
Yeah.
Were there any kind of interesting things that you noticed were real patterns?
100%. So to dive into that in a second, the reason I kind of stopped YouTube was the channel developed into a channel the subscribers didn't want to see. You get what I mean? And I think if you don't take them on a journey to slowly do it, but I went very extreme from it's me on the shop floor with my camera phone filming what I'm doing, which was so easy. I know people get camera setups, but camera phone, it's it's in your hand, you remember to do it.
It's like POV almost.
You edit it, it's done. And then I went a bigger camera, and then I worked with Monster, and then I come over here, and the channel became, what am I enjoying at the minute?
Yeah.
Traveling and training. I can't film people being trained by me.
No.
So as much as I enjoy video editing, I would end up then editing for me, and it became very selfish. I was like, oh, I traveled here and I did this. And it's no one wants to watch Alan in business class and then watch him take a drive in a Italian field and then watch him do a tour around Rupes HQ. An amazing memory for me, like a diary, but my audience didn't want to watch it. They wanted to watch Alan go and wreck a car and solve his problems live. And so the channel morphs. That's why I stopped it. So in that one, I would say to people, if you're doing a channel, you really got to try and stick to your subject matter. You really got to try, and it can morph, and it will, because the subject changes, but you got to do it progressively. You can't do what accidentally happened with me, that when I left the shop, no one was recording the guys. I didn't have a media team. So then we didn't have that content. And I would say to them, can you please do it? And if you do legacy watch it, you would end up seeing it would be me at the desk going, hey, what's up? So whilst I was over here, the guys did this, drop the content. And then they were working on this, drop the content. And I tried that style, but I didn't fall in love with that. So that's why the channel kind of died off, but I might pick it back up. But I tried really hard. It was to get back to all the comments. Back then I didn't have a big subscriber base. I can't remember what I had. And then it's come down to maybe 12, 13,000 now. But if you watch the videos, you've got 5,000 views and 5,000 comments. It was crazy. It was you've got 100 views and 100 comments.
Crazy engagement.
It was so crazy, the engagement. So my audience was so niche and so involved that when I changed it, they got upset a little bit.
Yeah.
That's
the reason why that happened. I would love to pick it back up and develop and do more stuff with it. But
I do notice that trend amongst, creators, be they big, small, whatever in between, between our different channels, even the podcast channel, it's tiny audience compared to the main channel, which produces stuff that's
more generic,
broad, accessible,
more general.
But we've noticed the trends happen when it comes to the kind of content we were producing on the main channel, where early days it was fun because it was
just us.
It was just us. And since I'm running the media department, it was just whatever ideas you can come up with the guys, throw it out there and see what sticks. As time goes on, you kind of realize, oh, this is costing money for the company, so you got to be more responsible. You got to figure out okay, can't totally wing it. You got to figure out some stuff that does have some baseline acceptable viewership that you're looking for and stuff. And over time you hone that, but at the same time you still have that adventurous spirit. You don't want to lose that, but it is hard when you have this idea that you think is great. And of course, this is the classic thing amongst creators. You have this idea that you're like, yes, this is awesome. I know it's not what people are expecting, but I feel good about it. I'm going to throw it out there. And it is just not even trash. People don't say anything bad about it. They just don't watch it, period.
Yeah. Or what we get into now, when it was originally just me and Dane and Anthony, it was literally Anthony and I and Dane holding the camera.
Dumpster hanging.
And we would knock something out and we would get it done, finished shot. and then it'd take Dane a very long time to edit it.
I'm a slow editor.
'Cause it's just his style.
I'm meticulous,
but
but slow.
But everything was done right and beautiful. So we had to hire some more people.
Right.
So we're like, hey, we need to be able, we're putting more content out. We got this backlog. We need to get some people in here to help us edit this stuff just so we could get some of this content done before it would not become relevant.
Yeah.
And now we've got them. And they're like, hey, I got some ideas. And we're like, oh, okay, well, this is kind of how we are. And they go, well, making my life easier.
Yeah.
If you guys could do this. And we're like, all right. So then you adjust. And now we've got 13 people, including the three of us. Wow. There's 10 in the media department. And there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. But we try not to lose that spark and that core focus of, is this something we can make that people will want to watch? And thankfully, as each person has come into the group, we haven't had to let anybody go. We've been able to get them in and add in their silliness and their craziness. And that's what I think has made us work the best way, was because of that. You look at the little things that each person has contributed into each of our videos now and how fun it makes it. And I still feel when you look at those first videos with the three of us to what we're putting out now, and I don't see
spiritual through line.
Yeah, there's a spiritual through line, as you say. I think that's the hardest. That's quite possibly the hardest thing that we have had to do. Is to try and keep that without losing it, because we could create content. Just like you said,
you could copy it. You could do the disaster detail.
We could do
all
that stuff.
We're not above that. We've definitely done things we saw someone else do and go, we should do that, because admittedly, we kind of been in a slump on views or whatever. It's like, let's try that. Turns out YouTube is very particular. Like, those channels do well with that kind of content, but you trying to do it?
Yeah, but it goes back to what you're saying. If it's something that your audience isn't going to watch, it won't. Fair game. Like, okay, I'll
when I was consistent, and these might be rules now. Alan's top 5 YouTube tips.
Let's hear it.
This is however many long ago. It was big on. I would look at the analytics. So big on the analytics. Where do people leave and why?
Yeah.
And I was starting to realize that at the end, like when I was doing my "it's time," I was like, "So I'll see you tomorrow," and people would disconnect. Subconsciously, they're here and see you tomorrow. Oh, video's finished, on to next one. Where it wasn't. The way I'd recorded the content was day into day into day. So if you were new to my channel and didn't realize this one video was going to be Alan cutting between multiple days, you'd just see them leave.
Yeah.
So I had to do some adjustments in myself, learning how to speak. So it isn't as much as I say we just winged it on camera. There was a conscious effort in the back to be more like, all right, so we'll see how this turns out. And then you cut to black. And then the next one is, here it is, so it was there wasn't a disconnect. So the top one is once you get going, have a look at your analytics, see where they leave, and try and work out what's obvious, because it could be something so silly that I say silly, but so simple to change. It's not you being terrible, doing whatever. It's just subconsciously you've said something that causes someone to disconnect and not engage.
It can be very subtle stuff like that.
Super subtle.
You don't even notice it. To you, it's just as simple as breathing. You don't give it a second thought, but to the audience, that it's like a total cue. It's
without a doubt.
Well, bye.
And then it was always, so back when I was doing it, it was always thumbnail, title, description. They had to relate. You couldn't just word stuff to try for Google to find you. So it was working on those. I tried to keep my face in every thumbnail, and my face is silly. So it was always me pulling a silly face or me doing a whatever. And I would never force a thumbnail. So some of them are terrible. It's when I would be doing my selfie like this, and behind me like, and that was the video, and then put the silly text on it. And now you look, that's what all these big kids are doing with the multi-million.
Yeah.
I did it back then.
That's all the Mr. Beast stuff, everything like that.
100%. And then doing the cards regularly to keep people in your content and playlists. So when I was YouTube, that's where I try to stick, and I try to keep them all relevant to that. And then that's where back then I seen massive growth in my engagement and stuff, keeping people on the channel, then spread my video out. And with a smaller viewership, I got to a healthy amount of subscribers. I want to say I was maybe 15, 17,000 at one point. Back in the, smaller times of YouTube. And then it did hard stop. I just kind of, this isn't working.
Well, and as another question, this one's maybe a selfish personal question, but just curious, because as a company running a YouTube channel, it feels very different in terms of how people interact with you and how they interface with your content as a company versus an individual who's like putting out videos where, say, they're reviewing products from a company or trying stuff out. It's like you're kind of under a different set of standards that people are looking at you with versus an individual doing it. So for you, being that your channel was the size it was, and it started off as you, not AMDetails, but you, and kind of branching off that, did you notice a transition or a shift in the way people perceived you as you went along?
No, so it was very much to put a terrible twist at the Alan Medcraf channel. We tried other people on it. We tried staff members. I used to regularly do it. I remember Scott did an intro outro video with me, and it was a proper, we tried hard to do a how-to, not a vlog. It was a how-to. The video flumped, and we were so positive, and I was so proud of Scott. He did not want to be on the video. But it did become the me channel. In fact, so much that in selling the company, I still own the YouTube channel. It might become YouTube/Alan Medcraf. We'll see what ATG want to do with that. But if I want to film and record everything I'm doing right now, because I do want to go back to content creation or be part of a team that does content creation, which is what I love about being part of P&S, working with Sydney and stuff. So that's going to be super good fun,
That is a uniquely difficult position. You find a lot of these channels, and as they start to reach a certain age, maybe they've been around 10, 15 years in some cases, and, you know, the creators, they're getting a little tired. They're like, hey, so I've had my friend in the background here for a while, but they're the new face. And you see the audience just like turn on them, and it's ugly. And it shouldn't be that way, but a lot of times, like you say, it wasn't your ego making it the Alan Medcraf channel. It was the audience demanding it, essentially.
And I guess I was very conscious of it. We take a way tangent. So Waxstock was a big lesson for me, that it put me on a pedestal.
Yeah.
As in, I would be there and you'd have the people coming up to you, and they watch you day in, day out. They know who you are, what's going. You don't have a absolute clue who that is unless they come and say, and I'm Jeff 33291 exclamation mark. 100%. You know, like we don't know who these people. We were just talking about it when we arrived. And then so I would take Eon with me, who was my operations manager at the time, and he remembers all this sort of stuff. He's a number plate registration, part number remembering guy.
Oh boy, yeah.
And he would be there, and we would have conversations, and I would be like, oh, hey, it's nice to meet you. And he's like, oh, dude, this is 3 years in a row that people have come and seen you.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't mean it deliberate. I have a great interaction, and you become conscious that you're like, I want to be positive. I want to be the guy you see on channel. I'm absolutely tired. I've traveled international, but I get a buzz off of this. So ironically, I then, go on guys, next door.
It's a new sound.
If you can hear that on this, we're going to cut to B-roll of whatever that was.
Wow.
I think Jimmy set up a camera.
Yeah, Jimmy's...
I'm going to drop B-roll of like a bird just like screaming or something.
We'll go and film me doing it. We'll just do comedy value. It's me going like this down the wall, like, right. Anyway. So I studied it. As cheesy as it sounds, I studied little manipulations, again, like doing in the YouTube channel where I was losing audience, that I changed the, hey, nice to meet you, to, hey, nice to see you.
Yeah.
That one change.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this in Auto Mechanic a couple of years ago.
We did that. You and I did that because I was running the same problem.
So tough. And then, you don't mean anything by it.
And I made that one adjustment, and Eon was just like, those people were buzzing. Because I every person that left, I felt so conscious, like, were we good there? Was that what they wanted? Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that might happen again now. I'm doing this ATG thing, because I am so lucky that the conversations we're having already of what the ideas we have for me in this company. Wow.
I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what the future holds with this and what it holds for you specifically.
It's going to be good.
I think it'll be fun.
It's going to be really good I still get to do the detailing side. I still get to do the product side. I get to be with all my local friends, so Callum and everything in the detail industry. I get to be all my international friends in the e-commerce industry.
What more could you want, right?
We might do this more often.
There you go.
I might actually be looking down the real lens more often.
Maybe I'll be over here scratching on the walls.
Yeah.
So
next time that won't be the case.
We should do one. We'll do hey guys, ask your questions in the comments, and I will come back.
It's so bad.
I'll come back and answer in another episode of the Rag Company podcast.
I think that's a perfect way to end it.
That's a great way to end it. And on that note, hopefully you're looking at footage of Alan just drilling random sheets of metal.
We're going to do that now. We'll get me in all the tools.
There we go.
So Alan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dane.
Taking the seat.
Thank you, Levi.
Appreciate it.
Hanging out.
Thank you, everyone down the camera.
We really appreciate you. So, anything you want to tell the audience back at home?
How do they find you? What do they plug yourself?
Oh, wow. So now I think you got to find me via Alan Medcraf. So all my old personal stuff, I'm going to flip it into a business. So that'll be Instagram, Facebook, everything. You just search alan.medcraf, should bring me personally up. Of course, if you want to find who I'm working for, Google the Appearance Technology Group, and it'll show you the partner company with all the brands underneath it. And then, from then forward, we'll see what I do with the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's
Dig it.
why we ask. All right. Well, thank you, Alan. And
Thank you.
you guys, we'll see you as we wrap up. All right. Well, that was certainly an enlightening conversation with one of our very favorite Scotsmen.
I like that guy.
I really like Alan. Always
like
have.
him too. I mean, I literally was just lowering myself off of this chair and onto the floor to make myself comfortable and getting out of pain. But gosh, his voice, I mean, he's just so kind. He's funny. He's great to be around.
Yeah, I love being
He
able
was
to.
down there.
Well, he's kind of hard to miss. But point is, I loved Alan. I like that he was able. We were fortunate enough to get him in the studio with
Yes.
us to actually be here,
kind of a
in person.
long trip.
And seriously, you guys, we touched on it in the episode. We have been trying to do a podcast with Alan since we've had like the Rag Company podcast, like
Ages.
ages. Yeah. We've been at events with him and we've done lots of events with him, but we have never had time to go like, I mean, every Waxstock we've been to, every MTE that you guys were at with me, like we've always been like, Alan, let's get together tonight and do a podcast in our hotel room. It doesn't work. It's never worked.
I've gotten him to host various things.
Yeah,
for
we've
us,
gotten
like
him
on
over that.
Instagram Live
Yeah.
during Waxstock. He was my host when I didn't have Anthony around. I had Alan walk us around. He did an amazing job. He's just really good.
Yeah,
at
we
that sort
zoomed him in or got him in
of- for
virtually
like a Christmas episode
during a couple of those,
Yeah.
but we have never physically got to sit down and just talk to the guy. And this was the most fun. So I hope you guys all enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed it.
Oh, I definitely enjoyed it.
absolutely.
I mean, even down here. And what's great about a podcast is that you can enjoy it from the sitting position, the standing position, the working position, and even the laying position. That's
Oh,
just the beauty
very
of
nice.
podcasts.
And once again, to all of you who endured it, I just want to say again, thank you for enduring all the drilling and screwing going on in the background. I'm glad we got that handled.
that was fun.
It was
I enjoyed it.
it was a little bit distracting at first, and we tried to just not acknowledge it because we weren't sure how much would be picked up in the mics.
Yeah.
But after a while, we realized
Could not ignore it.
We could not ignore it, so we did address it. And then next thing you know, Alan had like the
Yeah, at one point he was the one doing the
drilling.
drilling and the
Yeah.
screwing.
Well, I mean, there was 3 dudes on the other side.
when in Rome.
Yeah, right?
3 guys doing most of the drilling and screwing on the other side, and then you get a 4th person in here on the inside, right? And it just makes things crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those who are actually curious, we're having our studio kind of redone out there. So there's a lot of stuff going on just the other side of this wall right here. And unfortunately, a lot of that carried right through at the exact moment we were recording our thing. And that just happens sometimes. But you know what? I think we got a high quality show out of that regardless.
Yeah.
It was a great talk. And I hope you guys tune in for more, which, by the way, please leave us a review. Leave us a comment below with something that you want us to talk about, something you enjoyed about this episode, or a future guest you'd like to see on the show, because you never know. We could get in touch. But anything left before we go, guys?
Stay safe out there. Enjoy the summertime. Wash whatever you want to wash, right? Work on your Scottish accents.
Yeah.
And who knows, you might be able to get to my top list of favorite Scotsmen, whether you're actually Scottish or not.
I like that.
Get to work on that. Thanks, guys. You have a good one.
See ya.